Okay, that's the point, to sell stuff. You know, I work in marketing. I mean, you know, I can sit in Twitter all day and say I'm having an orange and go on the bus and all that. And that, you know, I always wonder where that ends. But you know, that stuff's important. But the point of why we're here is to sell stuff. And hopefully to do it without spending too much money in the process. This is a water break.
Great graphics.
Well, I'm pleased you mentioned that, actually.
Very
That's something you can do. Everyone sits through PowerPoint presentations, and that's all fine, but this is an Apple program called Keynote. It's not expensive, comes in a package called iWork. You need to run it on a Mac, sorry about that. But it's a little edge. You know, I want to look as good as we can, and Keynote gives me a better look than PowerPoint, so, you know, we'll use Keynote. All right, do we have a new world? Is everything old thrown out in the rubbish bin, forget about it? Well, you know, these things are new. Blogger, YouTube, Flickr, Facebook, Twitter. They're important, but they're not the only part of what we have to do today. So we're going to come back to them. But the first thing is to go back to basics, the 4 Ps. I don't know if people are as familiar with a guy called Professor Kotler, who wrote Kotler's Marketing Principles, the textbook that I studied. I was in Amsterdam, and I was a guest of the Amsterdam City Council because we did some work there, and I'm in the front row. So I'll pick on you now, Jason, no, I won't. And Professor Kotler is presenting, and that would be like saying, oh, you know, I'm a Catholic nun, and God's coming to give us a sermon. So, of course, you know, in the break, I just barge up and give him my card, and I'm in marketing. So Ian, what do you do? What do you market? And I said, oh, well, you know, we do gay marketing. And he stopped, and he thought about it, and went, oh, okay, so your clients are like Xbox and PlayStation, and he thought I said game marketing. So, you know, I mean, he's still a god. He's a wonderful, smart, old professor. So I took the opportunity to give him our brochure and said, here, read that on the flight back to Chicago. And interestingly, we ended up in the Dutch language edition of his next textbook. So I was really pleased I interrupted Professor Kotler. But the basics still apply. Product, price, place, promotion. Let's keep that at the front of our minds. No matter what you're doing, whether it's old media, new media, it's to sell stuff. Okay, this is to remember the point is to sell stuff. I'm intimidated to say how old this piece of tape is. If you have a look at the computer sitting on my desk, you'll learn just how... It's not that long ago, but it was new at the time. But I want to show this because it's about... None of the new technologies existed back here. But in terms of selling stuff, nothing has changed. So, you know, remember the point.
You know, what this garden needs is a few gaily painted figurines, don't you think? Well, that must have been what Australian artist Brenda Anshaw was thinking when she created this series of anatomically, if not politically correct, porcelain sculptures called childhood icons. What kind of childhood did she have? Ranging in price from $300 to $600, Childhood Icons features scantily clad gay and lesbian couples in the bath, on the couch, in the kitchen, and of course in the tutu. Terry? Of course, Brenda's not the only one dabbling in gay and lesbian iconography these days. You'd be surprised who else is chasing the almighty pink and lavender dollars in this week's Hub feature.
Latest research indicates that up to 10% of the Australian population is either gay or lesbian. The queer quarter has simply become too large and lucrative for big business to ignore any longer.
Let's assume that it were only a 5% market. We are still talking about, in Australian dollars, a market which is worth in excess of $26 billion per annum.
With major events like Mardi Gras commanding widespread community support, sponsorship and television coverage, now more than ever, mainstream Australian corporations are vying for those vital pink dollars.
Yes, I think with larger companies like Telstra, Toyota, I mean, they're making a huge effort. And I think they really are trying to target us.
Other major players include Bonds, Qantas and Orlando Wines, who've just spent $50,000 launching Havana Club Rum, specifically for the gay market.
$50,000 is a lot of money, but our experience has been that that is well worthwhile because the gay community will definitely get behind products like this when they're well and truly targeted at them.
James Eve is National Marketing Manager for Gay Mag Campaign. Over the past few years, his advertising revenue has increased by over 20%, the result of mainstream corporations entering the gay media minefield.
There has been a need, obviously, for certain consultancy groups to be set up that will specifically target the gay community, have knowledge of the gay community, have done the research, and also know from an apocryphal level, i.e. being gay or lesbian, what it's all about.
Marketing firms like Significant Others. Consultant Ian Johnson advises companies on how to target the gay and lesbian market.
The reality of what we do is to create a win-win situation so that the gay and lesbian community have their consumer needs met in a way that makes them feel good about our clients' brands.
Ian recently organised Australia's first Gay and Lesbian Consumer Expo. By bringing both sides of the marketplace together, companies are learning not to impose their mainstream heterosexual ads on an unappreciative gay audience.
When it's a male and female couple romping along the beach in Fiji, then you just laugh.
It's completely irrelevant.
If you want to talk to us, talk our language.
And while some gay-specific television commercials are becoming more risque, like this award-winning effort for the latest Jenny Morris album, the stereotypes still abound.
The Emma Bachet 20% on cleanser sale is on now.
One of the big do's and don'ts is do not stereotype the consumer.
Which is why the latest American offerings are so successful. This IKEA commercial takes a candid slice-of-life approach, yet to be seen in Australia.
We've been together about 3 years, and I met Steve at my sister's wedding.
So what other trends can we expect to be seeing soon?
If you're looking at the States, for example, you've seen, Visa put out a rainbow card. Well, that may well be coming here soon. So, we're only just scraping the surface. It's just the start of it.
Today, gay and lesbian Australians are out, not only as individuals, but as well-informed consumers who expect companies to understand exactly who they are.
Those who think our money's as good as anybody else's, well, they'll harm us, and if we like what they do and they do it with a reasonable amount of taste and discretion and what they produce is good, then for sure, then we'll do business.
I mean, that PC was pretty horrendous, but it was modern at the time. Hey? Oh, enough for saying that. Does that mean I'm really old now? It's jet lag. I woke up at 3:30. Yeah, I mean, the point of that is the basics haven't changed. So no matter what we talk about now, always remember it's the customer and it's about to sell stuff. So let us begin. All right. Oh, that's my water, sorry. PR is a good place to start. It's pretty low cost. If you can write a great press release about what it is that you're doing. If you want to know if it's interesting, talk to your colleagues, talk to some friends, test it. Give it to someone who doesn't like you. Say, is this dull? Or is there an interesting story there? Write it as if you were reading it in the media that you think it should appear in. And write PR with an interesting first sentence and paragraph. Book them in. Have a headline that makes you want to read. Get noticed. Are you too small to do PR? Absolutely not. When I left my job as a lawyer and went full-time in my company, it was me. We were in the media like that during the first 18 months of my company, once every 17 days. Because I believe what I'm telling you now. You can get noticed. You've got to think like a journalist. I don't know if anyone's a journalist or friends with them. They're lovely people. They're terrific people, but they're on deadline. They've got other things to worry about. You could be interesting. If you write a good press release, you could make their day because they might get out an hour early because you did something like that for them. Know the audience. If you're going to network into one particular journalist, take the trouble to find out who reads or listens or watches their product. So if you target an individual journalist directly, understand who reads their media and write your press release in context. For example, you're a one-person travel business, you're a travel agency, and you happen to be based anywhere in the world. But you've just discovered that in Maine you can get married now. So depending on whether you sell on the internet, you might well be able to contact a Maine journalist and say, hey, listen, I'm in this location. We're about to consider launching new packages from Maine honeymooners to come and stay at our destination. Here's some details, here's our website, here's our product, here's what we're planning to do. You might get a story in Maine, or in Connecticut, or in Canada. You could do it. So you're not too small, but make it relevant. make it good for the journalists.